Pregen VS Homebrew.
What
Round
the fuck's
one.
VS?
Versus.
Oh, verse. My bad. Well, people don't say VS. They say verse.
That's what they say now because people are stupid and they don't know what it means.
No, they don't.
Oh, God.
I'll give you... Go... Okay,
Start
you're
the
in...
show.
Well...
Are you ready?
For VS.
Pregen VS Homebrew Adventures.
I've literally never heard VS in my life.
Because you're not hip, man. You're not hip to the new jive.
Whatever. I've got an 18-year-old, like... yeah, he's still my son.
Does he talk to you?
He does. I don't understand this.
Yeah, he doesn't understand because he's saying
mouth.
VS and you don't like, what? What are you saying?
It's because he talks in abbreviations. That's what the new generation does. They talk in abbreviations.
Right. Instead of verses, they say VS.
I don't think so.
Anyway, you ready to go?
Yes. Go.
Grinding my gears. That seemed more like you were trying to like squirt one out.
Squirt one out. Hold on with that. Okay, go ahead. We can go
Where
live
are
now.
you filming this? This whole time? Is that in your bathroom?
Hold on, I got to give a courtesy flush. All right, let's go live.
Hey, everybody, and welcome to another edition of The Down Roll. Yeah, he's still doing it.
I'm still doing it until I forget.
That's Will.DM. I'm Atom. And today, we're going to pit two key Dungeons and Dragons thingamabobbers together. It is Pregen Adventures and Worlds VS Homeroom.
Versus.
Not Homeroom. I'm going to do it again.
All right, go.
I'm going to do it again. Pregen Adventures and Homebrew VS Home.
Versus.
What did I say? Homebrew? Fuck. Take three. Pregen Adventures and Worlds VS Homebrew
Versus.
Adventures and Worlds. Who will come out on top? Round one.
Round
Will
Ding,
DM.
ding. Versus.
Fight.
What
Nobody
the fuck
says
am I
BS.
talking about? Will DM.
I think what it was is now, of course, to give Adam a little bit of credit, he is reading my terrible typing where I just threw something together in like 2 seconds. So
What you wrote was, what is the difference between Pregen Adventures and Worlds to Homebrew? And I think it's pretty obvious. One you write, one something else writes. So we're adapting the topic to make it to fill up our 30 minutes here.
So basically, what the topic is essentially
What's better, Pregen
better?
versus
That's
Will,
what it's
because he's an
supposed
old
to be.
man. Pregen VS Homebrew.
Yeah, your
Who's the
homebrew
winner?
versus
Who's
your,
the loser? Who's doing it right?
well, and more
Who's doing
so
it wrong?
benefits.
I'm just gonna keep.
benefits of it.
This is the episode where I just yell everything over you, and you don't even get a chance to speak.
You get the aggression out of not ever actually being a pro wrestler.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. Because you can pro wrestle into your 50s. I mean, I see guys doing it all the time.
The Rock.
He's only in his first. Actually, probably in their 60s. Like who's that? Who's
still
that?
wrestling in the? I mean,
The Nature Boy, Hulk Hogan. How old do you think those guys
Hogan
are?
can barely walk as it is. That's bullshit.
He's still in the ring, brother.
Yeah.
Anyway.
24-inch pythons.
Well, that's not
all I
24. I'm
remember
going to put that
of-
back down.
That ain't 24 inches.
No.
Centimeters, maybe.
Well, I am a dude, so I'm allowed to lie. Look at that 24 inches.
You can't tell on the TV. It looks smaller because you're watching this on your phone, probably. That's
Yeah.
all it is.
There you go.
So, let's start with an easy one. We're going to
Yes.
softball this one, too, because
Okay.
I've been a little harsh on you so far here tonight.
I know my feelings are a little hurt.
We're gonna be a little easy on you. Have there always been pre-gen adventures and worlds?
No.
All right.
It wasn't for
Tick
quite
one
some
off.
time. Check.
Moving
Next,
on,
please.
So no, what was the first adventure? What was it?
The first adventure was I'm going to totally get. I'm going to say anybody out there who knows I'm wrong, go ahead and type it in. I think the company was called Metagaming. Actually, that was actually the name of the company back in 1975.
They were saying metagaming in 1975.
But it wasn't for the same purpose that we use it for. The name of the company was Metagaming.
Right.
Okay.
But this term was around.
But it didn't mean that term.
What did it mean?
It just
head games?
Just meta. Yeah, I guess. That was the name of the company. I didn't name the company.
God damn it, Will.
I'm sure the term meta came around sometime in there, but so and I could be wrong. It might not be Metagaming. It was the one.
Put it in the chat if you know what it is.
It was Queen Palace of the Vampire Queen, which was not even by TSR.
No, it was by Metagaming.
It was by Metagaming.
From what I understand.
Yeah, I know. I just said that, didn't I? I set it all up, and then my age came in and showed.
You spent a good 45 seconds talking about it.
Yeah, see, that's what.
So it was what? It was something of a.
It was Palace of the Vampire Queen.
Palace of the Vampire Queen.
Yeah, and
so it was a horror one.
I guess so. I've never read it. I only know of it. And I've never even seen a copy. The only copy I've ever seen of it was online, like an image of it. I've never seen it in the flesh before.
Mysterious.
So, yeah. And then your second one, and this is because when it first started, TSR wasn't about that. They were about, we're going to make the rules, and then we're going to make these rules books. And then, you know what? I take that back. First one, well, no. I think the first one is still Queen of Palace of the Vampire Queen, and then the second one comes out in the Blackmore supplement. Although this is where I could be wrong. In the Blackmore supplement was one of the supplement books that TSR. It's an official TSR book, and that's when they had Temple of the Frog God by Dave Arneson, and then that was like the only adventure that they did for a while, for years. It was several years before, well, actually more than several years, because 74 is the original books. The supplements come out over 75, 76, 77. He's already working on an Advanced Dungeons and Dragons to come out. Well, no, I might be back, because 77 I think is Monster Manual. That's the first one that comes out. Yeah, 77, 78, 79. Yeah. So Monster Manual, Player's Handbook, DMG in 79. So they didn't start making them for sale until the late 70s. I think 77, 78 is when TSR finally gets around to doing it. They were making some for tournaments, but they weren't releasing them. Do you like how I just geeked out there on you?
I don't know what you said.
I just kind of was like, my brain started going. I was like, well, what about that? Well, what about this? Hold on, let me turn this on.
You just started vomiting out years in the 70s.
Yeah, because I was trying to get all that information in line in my head.
Okay,
so
I'll assume you answered the question. So what's the benefit of running a pre-gen? And by pre-gen, we mean something that came from somebody else, right?
Yeah, I think for intensive.
Are we talking about like the what is this? Horde of the Dragon Queen, for example?
That would qualify. That would 100% qualify. Now, I would have to say that just for purposes of, it's something that was made by a company and sold, is what we mean by pre-gen.
Makes sense.
Like, you could always run something, I guess, that your buddy Bob wrote.
It's a module, they used to call it back in the day.
They used to call them modules.
Do they still call them modules? They call it adventures.
They haven't. It's adventures now. I think they quit calling them modules by 3rd edition. Actually, by 2nd edition, I think that's when they started phasing them out. That's mostly what I played
until now. So.
Yeah. Because what they started to do is they started to go away from just a dungeon to a story with dungeons in it. So there's the difference. And so because of that, I think they changed the terminology from the module to adventure to encapsulate the other stuff that was going on too. So
what's the benefit of using this pre-gen adventure or in this pre-gen world? For example, a Greyhawk.
Ah, yes. My world.
A Forgotten Realms.
It's not bad. Early Forgotten Realms is really good.
A Dragonlance.
Yeah, I don't know who likes that crap.
I fucking love Dragonlance.
I know.
Eberron.
Eberron's really cool. I would have to say that when it comes to official worlds, second one, my second favorite right after Greyhawk would be Eberron.
Well, we'll talk about that another time. We have to do World vs. World.
That's versus all those who don't VS.
So, what's the benefit of running?
The benefit is probably the biggest benefit for it's strictly to the dungeon master. One, you don't have to write it. You don't have to sit down and do all this preparation for it.
Someone did the work for you.
They did the work for you. So basically what it comes down to is that this is something good for people who just really don't have the time. Like you're not producing 3 streaming shows.
This is where we get out the violin now, right?
Yeah, see, go ahead.
Yeah.
But I'm a professional. Like. Oh, wait, no, I don't get paid for this shit. I'm just I don't know what you would call me. You call me a dungeon master is what you call me. All right. So
what's the fucking benefit?
The benefit is that you really, it cuts down on the time. It cuts down on time, prep, all the stuff, because it's there and it's for you. And for one, probably one of the biggest benefits out of running pre-gen stuff that people don't realize is that it gives the dungeon master peace of mind. Because when you're running your own homebrew stuff, I don't care who you are, you're nervous. You always get nervous about it. And is this going to work? Is this going to be entertaining? Did I set up the encounters correctly? Are they going to just walk through this? Or is it going to be too hard and am I going to TPK them here? When you design your own stuff, that is always on the table. I don't care who you are. Everybody has it. When you do the pre-gen stuff, that kind of all goes away. Because even if there's like a TPK or something goes bad or whatnot, you do one of these numbers, you go, yeah, man. Just, hey, I'm just running. It's in there. I don't know what to tell you.
You know what? Yeah, just call up Chris Perkins and complain to him.
Yeah. He digs on that. Yeah. So, but that is probably the number one biggest benefit out of it.
And it's all fleshed out, so when things start to go haywire and your players don't follow the path that you want them to follow,
yes,
there's some level of backup there, whether it's because of the world that they're in, which is already fleshed out, or there's other stuff within that adventure module, if you will.
Yes.
So you're still, you're working on the fly a little bit, and you've got to improv a little bit and change things around, but there's something to fall back on.
Yeah, and that's a really, really good point. Because
I know what I'm doing.
Shut up. So when you're doing the homebrew stuff, if it's your own world, you might not have gotten to that, and so that's another thing that adds stress to DMing. Whereas, like you said, if it goes off the rails, you generally already have that safety net of something already being designed for you to just throw at them, which is something really easy. That's why one of the biggest, that's one of the benefits that they say when you're creating a world or when you're starting out DMing, start small. That's that you hear that all the time, where just start with a village or a nice little town. And then what you can do is you flesh out and you build outwards from there.
That's actually interesting, because I would think that a lot of people, and you tell me in the chat if I'm wrong, a lot of people would start off big.
Most do.
And they're coming up with, the world. They've got this world map. They've got this pantheon of gods. There's all of this, these kingdoms and blah, 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 blah. But
you're totally right. A lot of people do that because you know what, that the appeal is to do that. You're naturally drawn to going that route to try and feel that, because that's a lot of fun coming up with that stuff. You know what I mean? But you can still do that, but you start your focus smaller and then build out. It's a microcosm. It's easier for you to control the effects of what's going on, and then you can just build out in radius from there. But at the same time, you know, when you do it that way, you kind of like curtail how your game's going to be. You know what I mean? You can't really run a world kingdom espionage kind of game starting out small. It doesn't really work that way. You know, you'd have to build.
No, but you can build to that, I think.
Yeah, you could.
But again, I think, you know, but also, and we're kind of getting into the homebrew piece of this. You know, what are some of the benefits of running a homebrew world and adventure?
The benefits of running a homebrew is you can curtail more to your style of play, your group's style of play, and your individual players, even for that matter. So that is a huge benefit, being able to do that. Now you can still do that in pre-gen stuff. It just takes some tweaking to do. But then see, now you're getting into the whole reason why you went to the pre-gen was so you wouldn't have to tweak. You know what I'm saying? It's like, it's done, it's there, I can just work with it. I generally tweak all my pre-gen stuff anyway. I'll move things around constantly. Especially another benefit of, especially nowadays, because things are so much more accessible. Information is so much more accessible because, God, I'm fucking going to sound old saying this, because now we've got the internet.
When I was a boy,
we had no internet to look up stuff, which is true.
We had to send requests via Pony Express.
But, you know, and back in the day, that was a thing where the dungeon master was the guy who had a lot of the world books and stuff like that, and the players did not. The players would buy, you know, maybe something that was specific for the type of characters that they wanted to play.
Players bought some dice,
and dice,
then when there was those supplements, they would buy the supplements, maybe.
Yeah. But to see, that's the thing, like about
when you wanted to be a swashbuckler, and they didn't have a swashbuckler until finally it came out, and it was a fighter class first. Did you know that?
Yes. Actually, I did.
Yeah, fuck you. So,
you know, is this going to become a thing? Trying to stump me? You can do it.
I'm
Trust
not
me.
going to be able to do it.
You sure you will?
I don't think I will. Other people maybe, but I don't have enough
without a doubt. Without a doubt, yeah.
So how do I know what's best for my group?
Probably. Well, for one, you got to know your players, and this is.
Well, let's say we're just starting out.
And this, a good thing to do before you start playing, especially if these are new players that you've never played with before, or not even friends of yours. If they're a good friend of yours and you guys have been friends for a while, you'll tend to know a little bit more about them, so to make it easier. But also, I am 100% down for the questionnaire, which is essentially 10 questions. You know, nothing super in depth, not like the IRS taking tax time or nothing like this. Just 10 questions about what players would like to see in the world, you know, and they could be leading or totally open-ended. You know what I mean? And just try to get some kind of specific information, because then you can take that information and just directly put it into what you're going to manufacture, you know, what you're going to homebrew. So you could totally do that. A little bit harder to do that with the pre-gen stuff, you know, because the pre-gen stuff, like we say, it's already there. So then basically, if you do have to change it, well, you're kind of defeating the purpose. But so did I answer the question? I don't remember what it was.
I don't know.
Maybe. I don't know.
I checked out a long time ago. So what do you prefer? I just ask questions so then I can think about other things while you're talking.
That's because you're a professional.
Yeah. Sometimes like, yes.
Yes. How's that grocery list coming?
I don't know what you're saying. So, what do you prefer personally, pre-gen or home brewed?
I'm a mix kind of guy. I like to homebrew to an extent. It depends on what I'm doing. Because like now, let's say for example, I get the best of both worlds in my current gaming because one, I love Greyhawk. I like Greyhawk. I like the world. I love Greyhawk.
You'd marry it.
I have.
Could.
We got divorced. We're still on talking terms.
Yeah,
well,
still...
I just wasn't enough for it. Anyway, I like Greyhawk. So in Greyhawk, what I do is I run, that's a pre-gen world, and I like to put in pre-gen modules and things along these lines. But then I totally go and I homebrew certain stuff, mostly like NPCs and timeline and things along these lines.
So for example, for those of you who watched, the other one, Return to the Bandit Kingdoms.
Yeah,
I was actually playing in that. And I don't remember.
You were.
It was more entertaining than I'm making it seem. The Halfling dudes.
The Bray Clan.
Was that a real
nope
thing?
That's a 100% Will DM creation.
I thought so because you have a strange love for hobbits.
Halflings. Can't say hobbits.
I can say whatever I want. I'm not part of TSR, Wizards of the Coast.
I think.
By the way, Wizards of the Coast, if you'd like to be a sponsor.
Yeah, so long as we're not selling it, we're good.
Yeah,
I love having
Tolkien's shit. You want to be a sponsor? Love to have you.
Mm-hmm. I guess we would have to start doing some Tolkien stuff then.
You know what? I can be bought.
Amen to that. I'm not going to say anything else.
Yeah.
But to finish my answer though too.
Oh, you weren't done?
No, I get on Wednesday nights. This totally sounds like a plug-in, but I am. On Wednesday nights we
9
do
9 p.m. Eastern time for both. By the way,
there you go. Tales of the Savage Land, which that's my world of Ura. And that's 100% my creation. That's my world. I've done all that in there. So every time that you hear me, I don't know, let me look that up. It's because I forgot my own shit.
So what are you looking up? Notes, or are you just buying time?
Yes, no notes, because I have notes on. And this is another way where, with the world of Ura, and I've said it openly, and it is based off of the Hyborian world. That is the inspiration for it. Now, the Hyborian world is Robert E. Howard's world in which Conan existed.
You couldn't have just said Conan the Barbarian.
What? The only thing I left out
I felt like you made us
I said Conan. I did, because I'm giving Robert E. Howard his props.
We had to go through a number of doors before we got to the cake.
That's right. He's a dessert eater first kind of guy. But yeah, so that is my that's my homebrew world, and I get to play in that. So I get the best of both, really. And but even when I'm homebrewing, I love to take stuff that's pre-existed as far as modules and adventure.
Every time you say homebrew, I'm thinking moonshine.
I know you are. And then I like to drop it into my homebrew world, and then I'll change some names around when I'm looking for something to do.
You just steal shit from Robert E. Lee. What's his name? Robert Howard?
Robert E. Lee. Look at you. Robert E. Howard. Robert E. Lee. Yes, Robert E. Howard. There are people cursing you right now. I can hear them.
I'm sure. You know what? Even before that comment, there are people cursing me.
That's true. You have a long track record. But yeah, so yeah. I mean, and that's what all DMs do. All DMs steal. That's so
like, why not just use?
That's DMing 101.
But then why not just use a pre-gen world and then tweak what you don't like?
You can totally do that too. But then you can take different things, and because it all depends on how much of it you want to steal and how much of you want to use. If you only want to use a little bit, then you only, then you take and you change that around. Because it's the same thing with the pre-gen. It's like I take that and I change. When we're doing Ghost of Saltmarsh, right?
Right.
Okay, Ned.
Tuesdays, 9 p.m. Eastern time.
There you go. Ned is a NPC in the module. He's actually in there. I mean, he was in there when they first wrote it way back in 81 or whatever. And he's a bad guy in the original story. And
but he's not in our
But he's not in yours. He's not in yours. And the reason for it is because it happened with how the role playing turned out, but also too,
the token.
I knew
it started with the token though.
It started with the token.
Because
that was what really changed
Wizards of the Coast gave him a drow token.
And he's not a
the
drow.
Roll20 pack.
Mm-hmm.
And
it went from there.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I was already monkeying around with changing that up anyway, because I wanted to surprise Michael. Michael's had played Saltmarsh before. So I was looking to just the first part.
When we played Saltmarsh the first time on a channel whom shall not be named, you know who I'm talking about, ladies and gentlemen.
Wink, wink.
That disappeared under mysterious circumstances.
Anyway, the question.
Whatever happened to that show? Anyway, when we played that, did we come across Ned?
Yeah.
Because I don't remember.
You did. You came across Ned, but the thing of it is that...
not in the same fashion, though.
You did. Well, no, not really. Because what ended up happening was in the first rendition, when we first played it, Ned was traditionally where he was supposed to be. Ned's the guy you find tied up.
Oh, when we found...
And this time, you guys found Grimpus tied up. Yeah. Yes, because by that time basically changed it.
Yeah, and you just made Grimpus the bad guy then.
Yes, and yeah, exactly. So, and you know.
Anyway, because that trailed off to nothing. What is, in your humble opinion, the best adventure pre-gen and best world setting? 2-part question.
Ooh, well, everybody knows I'm going to go Greyhawk.
Yeah, not
but we'll take Greyhawk and we'll throw it out the window.
What?
Okay, we'll say that I can't choose Greyhawk because everybody knows I would choose Greyhawk anyway.
But you already said Eberron is your next favorite, so
Eberron is my next. Eberron is my next.
They're coming out with a supplement for that soon.
They're coming out with it's going to come.
Sponsor?
It's going to become. We should do a review of that because it is coming out in hardback. It is an official release. You know you're not going to read it.
I know. That's why I'm concerned.
I'll read it. I'll write down the questions. I'll give them to you.
Okay, great.
So yeah, I would, and believe it, those are actually very different campaign settings as far as their feel, because Greyhawk is.
We're going to do the VS version later, so don't get too far into it.
Okay, I will go with that. Okay, so
that's a whole other episode. So you're saying Greyhawk number 1, Eberron number 2, pre-gen worlds best.
Yes.
Why do you like them?
I like Greyhawk because Greyhawk is gritty. The world events that happen within Greyhawk are not like the world events that you see that they were rolling within the Forgotten Realms. There's no such thing as a spell plague or a god war or any of this different high level churning shit going on in Greyhawk. It's all in your face, in the mud kind of stuff. And that's why I like Greyhawk. I like Eberron because it has it was designed to have a pulp feel and a steampunk feel. And it does have those. But the reason I liked it was because it took all these standard and traditional D&D, not necessarily fantasy, but established D&D tropes and tweaked them. Like in the example I always use is the Drow. The Drow of Eberron don't worship spiders. They're all connected with scorpions. You know, I like and it's just a subtle twist, but at the same time,
tomato.
Here's the thing, though, too: the Drow in Eberron are not just evil either. So, whereas in traditional D&D, they are. I also like the idea of the background and the history goes a little bit deeper in Eberron. I really, really, really like the idea that the world once was ruled and controlled by giants in the past, because that makes so much more sense to me. You know, if you've got giants roaming around, why wouldn't they be in charge?
Why wouldn't they still be in charge?
Because they got knocked down and there's so few of them now compared to back in the day. Is basically what it is. Is the other races started to progress. They got better magic and stuff.
Just goes to show you, folks, it's quantity, not quality that you're after. That being said, we have a full slate of shows here on Wicked Studios LLC. What's the best? What's the best adventure? Oh wait, what do you think my favorite world is? What do you think it is?
it's your favorite world is Dragonlance.
It's absolutely Dragonlance. Although I don't like using, although I love the characters in the books, I don't like using them when you play the game.
I see. I'm right there with you. So when you do that, then let me ask you this. This is a really good example of something that comes up with the pre-gen world. If you're not going to use the characters, I take it you're also are you placing your characters during the events that are going on in the books,
it depends.
The modules, or after, or just before?
Eventually, we may be doing the original adventures here in Wicked Studios LLC once I decide to do something about that. But I would have it done. So here's a little sneak preview for the five of you watching this.
There's 6. That's all right.
I would do one of them's me because I have to type it, so I need to log in to type.
Right.
So I would do it in the War of the Lance, those modules, with new characters.
Okay, so they would be the starring roles. Would be new characters.
Yes. So
that's awesome.
So we don't have any. We don't know who Tanis Half-Elven is, or I would probably have Gold Moon and Riverwind probably be NPCs.
That's a great idea.
Because they just, but not necessarily. It depends on the characters that people want to play. But again, nobody really wants to play a cleric early on because there's no healing early on.
Yeah. No, I think that's a great idea, actually. I see. Now that, to me, would be a way to...
Well, because that's how, when I played them, I mean, I didn't get through the entire thing, but when I played them as a kid, that's what we did, because we didn't, like, what are these fucking cards here? we didn't know the books then, and, we're like, well, we don't want to, the whole point of D&D is rolling up a character, right?
Yeah,
that was our thought.
Mm-hmm.
So...
I agree. And I think that's the best way of doing it. So.
Plus, you get a different story. Otherwise, like, if you're playing those characters, you're going to follow that same path.
Yes.
And even if you try not to, it's hard.
Yeah. The only way you wouldn't get that is if everybody who's playing it has no idea
anything about it. Yeah.
Doesn't know anything about Dragonlance.
Right.
That'd be the only way.
Yep. What's your favorite adventure of all time?
I gotta say, my favorite adventure still is, and it's just silly because there's so much better ones out there. It's strictly for nostalgia. Is White Plume. I'm such a White Plume mountain nut. I love that adventure, and I don't know what it is. It's just one of the ones that I got early on when I first started playing. I love the artwork that came with it. I remember reading through it, and I don't know, that maybe because it was one of the first ones I had ever gotten a hold of, it just cemented it in my mind at that point that, well, this is it. This is my adventure, because there's a ton of really great ones. As far as the new adventures that are out there, man, let's see. I gotta probably say that I'm gonna go along with what I've read of them, and most people tend to agree with this. And I'm just gonna, I guess, jump on the bandwagon. It's Lost Mines of Phandelver is actually considered so far the best one that 5e's put out, and they've put out some really good ones.
I'll tell you what, I've only played one. Well, I guess the Horde of the Dragon Queen and the Rise of Tiamat, which I really enjoyed it. Thought it was great.
Yep.
And now we're playing Tomb of Annihilation, and we're getting close to the end.
Yep.
I'll tell you what, Tomb of Annihilation, I was a little suspicious of it because it seemed like they made it just to be difficult. Like, this is the hard one, right? And that was everything that they talked about when it first came out was, oh, this one's so hard, you better not like your characters, blah, 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 blah. It is great.
Yeah, it is a good. Yeah.
It's funny.
Yes.
It's obvious there's a lot of danger, so that I think that helps with with the characters, because you don't want your character to die. Meanwhile, we had at least 2 players get killed just trying to open the door to the tomb.
Right.
But I like the whole thing. You're one of them. I like the whole thing with the like the island of Chult. Even before you get to and we didn't even spend a ton of time there. We bypassed quite a few things, but still the stuff that we saw was I thought a lot of fun. So I've been enjoying that one.
That's a hat off to Michael, though, our DM.
Yeah, Michael.
So he does,
and Michael,
does a good job.
You know him as, what's his character's name?
That's Cyprian, dude.
Cyprian. In
Ghost of
Saltmarsh.
Saltmarsh,
He's the aquatic elf. He's our dungeon master for Tomb of Annihilation.
Yeah.
He does a great job. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think old school adventures. I haven't played too many of them. I mean, I love the first Dragonlance module. I like the way it sets everything up, and then just it sets it up to and sort of eases you in with that traditional old friends meeting at an inn,
at the tavern,
and then immediately throws everything on its head.
Yeah.
And then there's nowhere to go from there. From there on out, you're just trying to figure out what the hell. And I think too many other modules after that kind of stole that formula. Like I think of the Underdark. What was the Into the Abyss?
Into the Abyss.
To me, kind of reminded me of that, but it didn't set you up like you started off already in prison.
Yeah, that was something that was ripped off from the Slavers, the original Slavers.
So I didn't love it because again, there was like at least with Dragonlance, you feel like you can control something at some point early on.
Yeah.
Once you get to that boat in Crystalmere Lake, you figure, okay, now I've got some options. I can figure something, and you still don't for some time, but you feel like you can do something.
I can do things.
Whereas you can't do anything in Into the Abyss besides run away from stuff.
Yeah.
So I didn't love that one. And I liked the original Castle Ravenloft.
See, that's one I've never played.
I've never played. I mostly played Homebrew back in 2E, but then we added in an encounter with Ravenloft and went through that adventure, and it was brutal. It was scary. It was great.
Yeah. See, when I was younger, I didn't want to do it because I was like, that's not D&D, man. That's Dracula.
Yeah, no,
I was stupid back
Dracula,
then. So,
man. Come on.
Yeah, so now I'm like, that sounds cool. Let's do it.
All right, now, Homebrew vs. Pregen. Who wins?
Okay, so like everything, because I'm so wishy-washy, it just depends. I personally like Homebrew. That's my deal. But it's not... It just depends. What wins depends on your DM style. If you don't have the time to actually put a lot of prep work in and stuff, then for you it's going to be Pregen.
And I'm lazy, so I'm going Pregen.
So see,
and then change things when you feel like you need to change them.
Yeah.
So put down in the chat, what do you prefer? Homebrew vs. Pregen. What do you like? You like adventures? You like worlds? Put them down there, man. Let's talk about it.
Yeah.
And until
we
then,
could spend a whole time talking about just D&D worlds. That would be a fun.
We have to do that. That's going to be a next one on our list. Maybe. Who knows? I don't know. We'll probably forget about it as soon as we sign off here, because this is the down roll for Will.DM. I'm Adam, and we will catch you next time.
Bye.
Game over. You lose.
See, I've got symbols for all of that.
Yeah, but none of them are good.
They're not supposed to be.